And welcome back to another one of my videos. Okay, now that we've created the query, in your exam paper you need to make sure that you either tick next to the query or draw a line over the query. So for example, I'm just going to put a line through or insert an object in mine. So okay, so for me, I'm just going to do that just to cover it. Okay, so that's done now, and you need to make sure that you also do this in the exam, because it's very easy to either miss something out or forget something. Okay, so you need to make sure that you try and do the same thing in the exam. So that's the only query in here. Now that I've produced the query, I'm now ready to move on to the report. So if I go back into my into the database to produce a report, I need to begin by going to create, then report wizard. So I'm going to just expand the page here. So here we can see the report wizard over here, report wizard. And in here, I need to make sure that I select the right query. So if I look at the drop-down menu, there are 3 tables here. So there's the initial sales table. This was the table that I initially imported data into. I have week 35 query, and I have week 37 query. So this is why it's important to make sure that you rename your queries so that it's easy to identify which query you want. So this query here in this page, this is the query for week. Okay, hang on a second, I'm just going to move that. So this was the week 35 query. So I'm just going to go back into there, and so now definitely have the week 35. Okay, so this is where you need to make sure that you always look back at your exam, because most of these marks are fairly easy marks to get, providing you have the right exam technique. So I need to look down now. Okay, and this query is about selecting the field. So which fields do you want in your report? So I want staff, so I select staff in here. I also want date, so I choose date. I want booking. Okay, so I choose booking from here. And I also want number. Okay, number. I then go to next. I then go back into my exam paper, ladies and gents, and once again I put a line through, okay, the bullet points that I've done. So I'm going to go to insert on mine, shape, and I'm going to just put a small. That's it. Okay, so I have that covered up. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Or what I would do, in fact, was probably a better idea, is I actually change the fill color here, because I need to refer back to these to check everything later. So I go to the fill color, and I'll put my fill color in orange. So this is done, this is done, so far, yeah, so these 2 are done. Okay, so in the next one, it says, do you want to add any grouping levels? So if I look at my exam paper, can I see any grouping? Nope. Reading through, no, I can't see any groupings, so I don't need to worry about this part. If it said it would like to group by this, then by this, okay, then this is where you would select the grouping levels. But in here, I don't need to worry about grouping. So I go to next. In here it says, what sort order do you want your records? Okay, so in here, does it say sort? That's a key word. Okay, so I go back into the exam paper, and here I can clearly see a sorts data into ascending order of date, then ascending order of staff. Okay, so I can do that in here. So I go back to my database, I choose staff, make sure it's in ascending order. Then secondly, I go to date and make sure that it's also in ascending order of date. Okay, I then, now that I've done that, I go to next. I go back into my exam paper and I put a line through this question. So on mine, I'm just going to simply fill in the box. Okay, so for me, I believe I put it as orange, or it's the wrong one. Okay, or I just put it like that anyway, so it's clear that it's done. Okay, so we move on. Now the next one is, how would you like to lay out your report? Now in here, I believe it said something about portrait or landscape. These are 2 keywords in here. So here it is. Okay, so it has a page orientation of portrait. So in here I choose portrait, ladies and gents. I then put a line through this, or in my case, I said that I was going to change the fill color. Okay, so it's clear this is done now. So these are the ones that haven't been completed yet. Okay, so we then go to next again. Now in here, what title do you want for your report? Does it say anything about the title? Oh, includes the heading. So the heading here actually means the title in here. Okay, so the heading should say mini tours booked at the top of the page. So in here, ladies and gents, in the database, you need to make sure that you type it in exactly the same. That also includes the same uppercase and lowercase letters. So for me, it was mini, M-I-N-I, double check that, M-I-N-I, tours, T-O-U-R-S, booked. Okay, and I'm going to just go back to the exam paper and double check that this is exactly the same as what's on the exam paper. Okay, because you could lose this mark if, for example, you don't include the uppercase letters, or if it's misspelled. Okay, so I then go back into the exam paper, and once again, ladies and gents, I put a line through this to make sure it's done. So now that leaves me with one more. Okay, so this one I can do in the report. So I then click finish. Okay, and here, ladies and gents, we can see that I now have a report. So I'm going to zoom out slightly. Okay, we can see here that the date and the booking, they're too close together. So we just want to change the layout of the page. And a piece of advice that I would give you is, if you go to the tab here, the orange tab at the top, right mouse click, then go to layout view. Okay, and in here, ladies and gents, change the layout view using these. Okay, using the layout view, because you can see what the report looks like in real time. So as I move this, I can see what the data looks like in real time. Just to give you a tip, ladies and gents, sometimes in the exam paper, your fields may look like this. Okay, that means that the box or the container holding the field is too small. So you need to make sure that you make it a little bit bigger, or big enough to fit all the data. Okay, so I then go back to date and I move the date across. Okay, the booking is clear now, and week is also clear. Okay, I'll just move the week, in fact. So I'll move the week across. Okay, and I'm going to also move the information over here, the weeks. So now if I'm just going to zoom out just to make sure that everything is clear in my report. I can't zoom out from here. Where is the zoom? Okay, maybe I have to exit the report. So I go back to view, and here we can now see what the report looks like. Okay, so everything should be clear. Here we go. So everything is clear. Just a word of note, ladies and gents, just be very careful here. Okay, because when you're in here, if you move this line over here, then it means that it may print across more than one page. So you may lose the mark for ensuring that all your data is printed on one page, which is over. Yeah, so fits on a single page. If you move this line over here, okay, or if you're in design view, ladies and gents, okay, and you move this line over here, this line, then you'd also lose the mark, okay, because that may print across many pages, and that's a common mistake that students make in the exam. So make sure everything, okay, you never touch this line over here, okay. So another tip that, if, for example, you've included lots of fields, what the examiners sometimes try to do is they try and trick you, okay, because they want to make sure that you can actually manipulate what the report looks like. So sometimes if your fields are very big, what you may need to do is you may need to go back into, for example, the layout view, and you may need to decrease the size of your font. So if you go to format, we can make the font size smaller to ensure that everything fits within the box. We can also move the boxes, make the boxes smaller, okay, and that ensures, if I go back to the design view, if, for example, ladies and gents, let's say the staff names are very big, and I want them to go across two lines, I can move this down, okay, details down, and I can also make the box bigger over here. And this will ensure that, for example, the first name and surname all fit under the same in the same box or in the same area. So I won't lose marks if it's like this either. Okay, and here you can see there is enough space now in between the or for, let's say, for example, for a first name and a surname. Okay, so far so good. Now I go back to the exam question. So this is done, fits on a single page wide. Yes, okay, that's fine. Okay, shows the dates and field names in full. Yes, we've just rearranged everything to make sure that it's all clear. We then scroll across and we see that everything's clear. Yes, I can then put a line through this or put a tick to say yes, this is done and I'm happy with it. On the last one, it now says has your name, candidate center number and candidate number on the right of the footer. So in here, ladies and gents, we then need to go to right mouse click and we go to the design view. Okay, so this is the page footer. So what this means is if, for example, my page prints on 2 pages, then I would have my name or the date in this case. So here is this is the date. So the date would be on the bottom of each page. Okay, so on the report footer, this over here is the report footer. This would only appear, what I write in here, my name and the center number, candidate number, will only appear at the end of the second page. So on here, on the page footer, it appears on the bottom of every page, whilst on the report footer, it only appears at the end of the report. Okay, so just to make that clear. For example, over here, so here, this is my document. Okay, what that basically means, ladies and gents, over here I have my page numbers. We can see here that my page numbers appear at the bottom of every page. So on my page, on the footer, this appears on the page footer. On the database, the report footer would only appear on the last page. Okay, so that's the best way to think about it. Okay, so that is now done. So I go back to the database. Okay, I then if I have to type my name in, I must write it in a label. Okay, and it was on the right of the page. So I click on the label, I then drag this box in. Okay, I make it a nice big box, and here this is where I write my name. So Mr. Hassin. Obviously make sure that you write your full names for the examiners. So my candidate number, let's say, is 9999, and my center number is QA046. Okay, I then go back to the design view and I just make sure that everything appears okay, and yes, it does. So this on the right of the page footer. I could, for example, move it slightly further right if I wanted to, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, so that's it. Now it's ready to print, and that's how you produce the report for this question. Okay.